القوة في المنطقة نتحدث عن تركيا، القوة المتخيلة. هل القوة هذه حقيقية؟ هل هناك من يبالغ في هذه القوة للدولة التركية؟ ما هو الدور التركي في السياسة الخارجية في المنطقة؟ هذا ما سنتحدث فيه. سريعا فقط أقول بأن تركيا خلال الثلاثة عقود الماضية أظهرت تغيير في سياستها الخارجي جذري تجاه المنطقة. تركيا التسعينيات مثلا كانت لها علاقات أكبر مع الغرب، وتقريبا أدارت ظهرها للشرق الأوسط بشكل كامل. في الألفية الجديدة كان في انفتاح كبير وقوي على الشرق الأوسط، لكن بقي على إطار علاقة على مسافة متساوية من الجميع، سياسة صفر مشاكل. بعد أحداث ما سمي بالربيع العربي شهدنا أيضا سياسة تركية مختلفة تجاه المنطقة، هذه المرة أقرب إلى سياسة المحاور، المع والضد. وبالتالي سنحاول أن نفهم لماذا حدث هذا التغير، وهل هناك أسس حقيقية للقوة السياسية التركية تسمح لها بالاستمرار في هذا الدور. أرحب أولا بضيوفي في هذه الجلسة بالترتيب. معنا هنا معالي الوزير الأسبق، وزير الخارجية الأسبق للجمهورية التركية يشار يكش، أهلا وسهلا بك. وأيضا معنا هنا أستاذ سعاد كنكلوغلو، وهو أكاديمي زائر بمعهد الشرق الأوسط في جامعة أكسفورد، وكان نائب سابق أيضا في البرلمان. وأيضا صديقي وزميلي أستاذ البروفيسور عمر تاش بينار، وهو باحث أول في معهد بروكينغز في واشنطن، ويعني متخصص أيضا في تركيا والشأن التركي. أهلا وسهلا بكم جميعا. أبدأ بسؤالك معالي الوزير، ما هي محددات قوة السياسة الخارجية التركية؟ على ماذا تعتمد تركيا كقوة في تحديد سياستها الخارجية تجاه الشرق الأوسط والمنطقة وحتى مع الغرب؟
Actually, Turkey is a member of NATO and an important player at the scale of the Middle East, but it is not an important player in the world scene in general, and it has the biggest army in NATO after the United States. It has a population of more than 80 million inhabitants, so it's an important country at the Middle Eastern scale only. But sometimes Turkish decision makers, at least after the coming to power of the ruling party, the decision makers in the party thought that they can go back to the Ottoman times and perhaps expand their influence in the region. But fortunately, the realities in the field showed that Turkey has limits there, and it could not achieve what it had thought at the beginning. Now, thanks to the cooperation with Russia, Turkey learned in Syria that it has to adjust its policy to the reality in the field. When we turn to Turkey's relation to the West, to European countries, it has also seen its limits in the accession process to the European Union, and also in bilateral relations with the major European countries. When President Erdogan visited Germany a few weeks ago, the way his proposal or his talks was conducted in Germany with the German decision makers showed the limits of Turkey's capacity in Germany, what it can do and what it will not be authorized to do. So all these things brings Turkey down to the earth and perhaps make more realistic assessment in this situation. This is what I want to say in direct answer to your question.
نعم. طيب إذا هناك أسس لقوة اللي في السياسة، لكن صانع القرار حاليا يبالغ في ما لديه من أسس على الأرض، وبالتالي التجربة دفعته لأن يحد من طموحه السياسي بناء على قدرته الحقيقية. دكتور سعد كنكلولو، هل باتت تركيا ليست بحاجة للاتحاد الأوروبي؟ شهدنا أنه كثير من القوة اكتسبتها تركيا من خلال علاقتها مع الاتحاد الأوروبي، عملية الاندماج في الاتحاد الأوروبي. أكسب تركيا قوة اقتصادية، قوة في الداخل، حتى في سياستها الخارجية انعكس ذلك. الآن نشهد تباعد، فهل أصبحت تركيا فعلا ليست بحاجة للاتحاد الأوروبي ويمكنها الاعتماد على نفسها وعلى الذات في سياستها وفي اقتصادها؟ ما رأيك؟
Okay. I think Turkey still benefits actually from the fact that it is technically still on an accession process with the European Union. That said, I mean, it's obvious membership in the Union is not a realistic target anymore. I think in 2017, especially the tension between Turkey and many European countries came to such a level, I think a critical threshold has been passed. But that said, neither Turks nor Europeans are going to vanish from the geography they occupy. I think Turkey and the Europeans will continue to cohabit the same geopolitical, geo-economic, and geocultural space. But I think we are in the process of reformulating, of trying to find a new format of a relationship. And I think, although the Turkish foreign policy decision makers don't like the term, we are heading towards some sort of special relationship with the European Union, whereby a more transactional relationship between Ankara and Brussels, Berlin and Paris is coming about. And this is actually what President Erdogan is also interested in. He's not interested in the values-based relationship that the European Union membership would necessitate. He's interested in a more transactional mode, and you see it in the refugee crisis, you see it customs union, and you see it on anti-terrorism and some other issues. So I think we are seeing an evolving relationship between Ankara and Brussels, at the same time when, of course, the European Union itself is also in some sort of soul-searching. However, regardless of what the political aspect of the relationship will evolve into, the fact is Turkey still sells more than 52% of its products to European markets. The customs union is in place and it has the potential to be upgraded in the coming years. So therefore, the EU link will continue regardless of what the political, in what sort of new definition this new relationship will be settled in.
Thank you. Mr. Amar Tashbinar, هل تعتقد بأن الرئيس التركي رجب طيب إردوغان يحسن توظيف أوراق القوة؟ يعني كما تحدث قبل قليل أستاذ سعاد، ورقة اللاجئين استخدمها أردوغان بشكل قوي مع الاتحاد الأوروبي. ورقة القس الأمريكي اللي كان محتجز في تركيا أندرو برونسو استخدمها أيضا مع الولايات المتحدة. هل يحسن توظيف هذه الأوراق أم أنه يتخيل أن لها قوة أكبر من الحقيقة لكنه مع ذلك يحاول؟ ما رأيك؟
First of all, let me thank you, Dr. Abdeslam, for the invitation and organizing this great conference. I think the overall analysis of Turkish foreign policy, especially since the Arab uprisings and the disappointment that Turkey had in the aftermath of the Arab uprisings, by the fact that the Muslim Brotherhood was unable to really maintain power in a country like Egypt, turned into a frustration for Erdogan. And Turkey discovered after the Arab Spring, and especially in Syria, the limits of its power. And there is currently a mismatch between Turkey's ambitions and its military, economic, and diplomatic power. I think up until 2013, there was this sense that Turkey was on the rise. But since 2013, Turkey has entered a much more authoritarian phase with the protests in Istanbul first, then the downturn of the Kurdish situation, the failure of Turkey to solve its Kurdish problem turned into a major issue because not only the civil war-like dynamics restarted in Turkey, but also in Syria, Turkey realized that the Kurds of Syria in the north, which are linked to the PKK, the Kurdish separatist group in Turkey, have become the best allies of the United States in the fight against ISIS. So therefore, Turkey entered a new phase of crisis in its relations with the West, mainly with the United States, because its NATO partner now was helping Turkey's existential threat, the PKK. The economy was no longer performing well, and warlike dynamics were back on the Kurdish front. As if all this was not complicated enough, then the failed coup attempt and Erdogan's political war with the Gülen movement also exacerbated dynamics, both at home and with the United States. So what we have now as a big picture in Turkey is an embattled Erdogan who is still managing to win elections. That's very important. He's still the most important power in Turkey. He has established a presidential system. Yet he's frustrated because he has been unable to achieve what he wanted in Syria, what he wanted in Egypt, what he wanted in the Arab world. His relations with the United States have recently improved, partly thanks to the Khashoggi debacle, which maybe we can talk about. But overall, things are not going in the way he wanted.
Okay. سعادة الوزير يشارك ليش هنا انت بتعرف عربي هنا حضرتك خدمت في مصر وفي السعودية كسفير نعم طيب أعود لنفس السؤال توظيف أردوغان لأوراق القوة التي في يده رغم فشل الحلم في ما سمي بأحداث الربيع العربي بالسيطرة على بعض الدول من خلال تنظيم الإخوان انتهى هذا الحلم لكن لا نرى مراجعة في السياسة الخارجية التركية بل إصرار على الاستمرار وكأن شيئا لم يحدث من خلال الإصرار على دعم جماعة الإخوان الإصرار على مثلا محاولة التدخل في شؤون بعض الدول هذا لابد أن يكون له أساس يعني هنا كيف صانع القرار في تركيا يصر على هذه السياسة بناء على أي أوراق في يده هل هو موضوع ملء الفراغ الذي يعني حدث أثناء الربيع العربي أو أحداث الربيع العربي ويشعر أردوغان أن إيران إذا كانت تحاول التدخل فتركيا كمنافس لإيران يجب أن تتدخل ما الذي يغريه لهذه الدرجة بهذا الدور؟
First of all, I don't think that Erdogan and in Turkey in general is doing what you are trying to describe. It has understood the limits of what it could do, and now it is adjusting without perhaps confessing it, it is adjusting its policy to the reality in the field.
How?
In Syria, the ambitions were high. There were press reports in Turkey that if Turkish army enters Syria, in 3 hours they will go to Damascus and they will perform their prayers in in the mosque there. But it has got stuck in a small place in the north of Syria, in Al-Bab, to begin with, Jarablus and Al-Bab. Later on, in Afrin, and now in Idlib. But now, since perhaps a few months, another reality which was there, but Turkey failed to understand the importance, was the support provided by the Americans to the Kurdish political party, the strongest political party, PYD, in Syria. And it's only now that Turkey sees that this threat is much more important and bigger than all the other things which is happening in Syria. Now the emphasis or focus shifted to what in Turkey is referred to as east of Euphrates River, because normally Turkey did not want the Kurdish fighters to cross the Euphrates River to the west of it, and it was able to implement this policy to a certain extent by carrying out military operations in 2 places, now in 3rd places. But now, most probably, Turkey will have to shift its weight or attention to the east of Euphrates, where Americans equipped, trained, and provided ammunition by hundreds of trucks and aircraft to train them, which is important for the United States policy there. First of all, in order to maintain their military presence in this northeast of Syria, which corresponds to 1/3 of the Syrian territory, but which corresponds to more than 80% of the oil resources and water resources of Syria. So the United States wants to have a stronger place in the negotiating table for the future of Syria.
Yeah, this is about Syria, but if we can go faster about in Libya, policy did not change. Even in Yemen, even in some places, Ankara still sees in Muslim Brotherhood a strong arm to support its policy. So it's continuing, and this is what I meant in the question.
Well, I believe that Turkey's policy towards the Arab Spring was wrong since the day one. And it has become more clear that it was a mistake in the Syrian crisis. In the Arab Spring in general, when Arab Spring broke out in Tunisia, then in Egypt, then in Libya, then in Syria, the decision makers in the ruling party thought that the ruling party in Turkey has also the ideological affinity to the Muslim Brothers, because in the mother party's time, Refah party's time, Erbakan's time, they were inspired of the Muslim Brotherhood practices by using democracy, but in a way which is convenient for their own interest. That's to say, to gain the support of the people in the outskirts of the big metropolitan places outside Cairo and in the rural areas. And Turkey has done this in its country. And so there is an ideological affinity. When the Arab Spring broke out, Turkey thought that now there is a belt of Muslim Brotherhood-ruled countries. It's going to emerge, starting from Tunisia, Libya, Syria, Egypt, and Syria. And Turkey also being ruled by a Muslim Brotherhood, like-minded party. Turkey could lead this because of the better democracy, I mean, multi-party democracy tradition. But it was wrong because despite the fact that in schools in Turkey, we were taught that the Ottomans brought peace and stability to the Middle East, to the Balkans, and to Caucasus, etc. Having served, I happen to be the longest-serving Turkish diplomat in the Middle Eastern countries. I served 4 years in Syria, 4 years in Saudi Arabia, and 4 years in Egypt. What the people of these regions remember of the Ottoman times is more negative sides than the other side. So for these reasons, Turkey could not resume such a leadership role. So it went wrong, and it was wrong since the day one of the.
So it's ideological is more than this. So let me. اسمح لي أستاذ سعاد كنكلو أسألك هنا. تحدي الرئيس أردوغان للرؤساء العالم مثلا في أزمة روسيا مع بوتين، مع ترامب في أزمة أندرو برونسون القس الأمريكي، مع ميركل، هذه الشخصنة وهذا التعامل، الإصرار على التعامل بندية في الخلاف، معظم هذه الأمثلة انتهت بشكل سلبي على العلاقات ربما مع تركيا. لكن إصرار الرئيس أردوغان، هناك تحليل في تركيا قرأته يقول أنه كلما يعني أجريت خلاف مع دول عظمى فإنك بشكل من الأشكال تحاول أن دائما يتم البحث عنك أو الحديث عنك ضمن هذه الدائرة، وبالتالي حتى لو كنت ضعيف أو أوراق قوتك ضعيفة في مقابل هذه القوى العظمى، فإن بقائك على سجال معها من وقت لآخر يدعم ولو ظاهريا أو نفسيا مركز تركيا في مواجهة هذه الدول. ما رأيك في هذا التحليل؟ هل هذا ما يعتمد عليه الرئيس أردوغان حاليا؟
I think this analysis has quite a bit of truth in it. And the reason for that is if you look at the Davos incident between President Erdogan and President Shimon Peres, if you look at the Mavi Marmara incident, if you look how President Erdogan uses the Palestinian issue as echoing his influence to the Arab street. I think if you also look into this from a domestic Turkish political angle, you see the instrumentalization of foreign policy and foreign policy discourse, and as you said, at times opposing the Europeans, standing up to the Americans, shooting down the Russian Su-24, etc. So really, if you look at it from a sort of a macro perspective, you see a Turkey that wants to leave and abandon its traditional foreign policy posture, position, and status within the regional and international system, and reinvent itself with a neo-Ottoman or new identity that is in contrast to traditional Turkish foreign policy instincts. I think when he shouts at the Europeans, Merkel or Paris or others, when he has a spat with the Americans over Syria, he always consolidates his base on these things, because the base is very much conditioned by the narrative that there is a new Turkey emerging. And here I also would like to say something about what Minister Yakush said earlier about the eruption of the Arab Spring. Ankara, I was in Parliament then when the Arab Spring erupted, where many people in the West or many people in the region saw dictatorships or authoritarian models collapsing and revolutionary movements, especially by youth and social media being activated. Turkey saw this as a unique Turkish moment in history. When Nahyan came into power in Tunisia, quickly Gaddafi was removed in Libya, but most importantly when the Brotherhood took over in Egypt. I think frustrated by its own European Union drive, seeing that there is no possibility to make a quick progress on the European Union drive, the Arab Spring and the initial developments of the Arab Spring was seen in Ankara as a unique Turkish moment in Turkish history, which could allow Turkey to become, as Minister Yakush said, the leader of the region, which could then re-bargain with the Europeans in a much stronger position. So one needs to put this into context. Of course, much water has flown below the bridge, as we say in Turkish, since then. But I think the fact is that President Erdogan continues to be an anti-status quo actor since 2013, I would say. So he's challenging the status quo. He's doing it in an extremely crude, sometimes, way, and the narrative that he employs is sometimes problematic. But in essence, and that's still, I think, when Omar said he's still winning elections, the fact is he wins elections because the base still thinks, and I don't know how much still in the Arab street that echoes after all what transpired since then. But the fact is that President Erdogan still enjoys the perception that he is someone who stands up to power centers, be it in the West or in the region, and is capable of speaking his mind in a not very diplomatic manner, as we all know. And this, I think, especially resonates with citizens who obviously, in the type of world that we live now in, do not understand or are not interested in finesse diplomatic details as we all should be. But let me conclude by saying, President Erdogan, as many authoritarian leaders now in the world, see foreign policy as very much conditioned by domestic political concerns. The days of when a small foreign policy elite were devising policy in an environment in their capitals are over. Anyone with a mobile phone who sends a tweet is part of the foreign policy debate. That's the kind of world we live in. So he understands the utility of foreign policy behavior directly translating into domestic political gains. And that's something that needs to be kept in mind. But my conclusion really is something that I really want to say is, of course, Turkey suffered very much from the gap between capacity and discourse. That gap, as we've seen in Syria, obviously, has been most striking. And similar to what Turkey experienced after the disintegration of the Soviet Union, namely when Turkey at the beginning had no expertise, no know-how, not enough human resources to deal with Central Asia and the Caucasus, but in time caught up. I think the same will happen with the Middle East. At the beginning, Turkey's human capacity is not enough. There's not enough people who understand the region, not enough people to speak languages. But I think in time we will see when Turkey will adjust and learn and also increase its human capacity to deal more realistically with the region.
سأتحدث وأسألك عن هذه النقطة تحديدا باختصار. I'll be asking you about this specifically just in later.
Sure.
About this integration now between Turkey and the Arab countries. أستاذ عمر، هل تعتقد بأنه مثلا، أنا أيضا هذا قرأته كتحليل، أن الرئيس أردوغان بسبب خيبة أمله من الاتحاد الأوروبي، بسبب يعني المماطلة في إعطاء يعني العضوية وفي ما يحدث في المنطقة، تعلم من إيران السلوك في مواجهة الغرب، وأنه إبداء حسن النية، التعاون لا يعطي تركيا شيئاً، يجب استخدام أوراق القوة، تهديد حتى الابتزاز في التعامل مع قضايا المنطقة من أجل الحصول. وبالتالي هو دائماً الآن في الفترة الأخيرة لا يتردد الرئيس أردوغان عن استخدام أي ورقة، سواء كان سجين مثلاً في السجن، سواء كان التعاون الأمني، يعني التعاون الأمني في موضوع اللاجئين. قبل 10 سنوات كان ممكن أن تركيا تتعاون مع الاتحاد الأوروبي طواعية من أجل علاقات جيدة. الآن لا، الآن يتم استخدام الورقة من أجل الحصول على مصالح. اختلف الأسلوب بين الاتحاد الأوروبي. هل تعتقد بأنه في تغيير في طبيعة التعامل مع الآخر سواء الغرب أو الشرق بناء على النماذج التي يتأثر بها الرئيس أردوغان أو الحكومة التركية في المنطقة؟ ما رأيك؟
There is no doubt that he's frustrated with the United States primarily, but also with the European Union, because he believes the West has double standards when it comes to democracy. He still sees himself as the voice of the people in Turkey, because he's winning elections. And make no mistake, these elections are not free and fair in Turkey. But overall, because people have witnessed under Erdogan's political party in the last 15 years a substantial increase in their living standards. Because when you look at Turkey today and compare Turkey with the 1990s, the living standards have improved, the infrastructure has improved, the health sector has improved, people are consuming, there is a middle class. People really believe that this is thanks to him. So he considers himself as someone who really serves Turkish economy, Turkish democracy really well. Yet what he sees from the West is this depiction of Erdogan as a dictator. And at a time when he believes the real dictatorships are in places like Egypt, he doesn't forgive the fact that, and this is how he sees it, it's important to understand how Erdogan sees the world. He believes that the West failed to call what happened in Egypt in 2013 a military coup, and that the overthrow of the Muslim Brotherhood, he doesn't see it as a people's movement, but he sees it purely as a military coup. And the fact that now you have authoritarian dynamics back in Egypt, this is somehow accepted by the West as a good development, because the Muslim Brotherhood is no longer in power. He sees it as a major problem for democracy. He sees it as a major problem for the evolution of the Middle East in a positive way, because he doesn't believe that this region can become more democratic if we marginalize the Islamists, who believe that the Muslim Brotherhood, and let's not forget, as Minister Yakush mentioned, he comes himself from the Muslim Brotherhood tradition. He believes that the Muslim Brotherhood can and should be integrated into the political systems, that there is no other alternative. If you marginalize them and if you declare them a terrorist organization, they will turn into a terrorist organization. They will merge with Al-Qaeda, etc. So he doesn't understand why the West is unable to see this, and why in places like the US Congress, there was a move to also declare the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. It did not really gain momentum, but there is this Islamophobia in the West, partly directed against him because he's seen as an Islamist, and he's frustrated with this. All this means what? It means that he turns into a nationalist. He's no longer, I believe, an Islamist. If we really want to understand Erdogan, we have to understand nationalism. He is now in a coalition with the Turkish military, with a nationalist proto-fascist party, and he's also very frustrated with the West, and this translates into Turkey's tactical partnership with Russia and potentially with China down the road. And I say tactical because I don't see much strategic convergence between Russia and Turkey. It is more of a tactical marriage of convenience because there isn't much that Turkey and Russia agree in the region, from Ukraine to Crimea to Azerbaijan, Armenia to Cyprus. Even in Syria, there are substantial differences between Turkey and Russia.
Yes.
But look, Turkey is buying a missile defense system from Russia, and this is catching the attention of NATO. The question that is being asked in NATO is, are we losing Turkey? And do we really want to lose Turkey?
And this is what I'm asking, is just briefly in short, because we are running out of time, and continue with Omar and come back. اسمح لي أتكلم بالعربي. سياسة بين قوسين الابتزاز والضغط أليست جديدة على تركيا هنا؟ إلى هذا الحد أنا أتحدث. كل الدول تستخدم سياسة الضغط، لكن إلى الحد الأقصى بأن تكون أنت عضو في الناتو وتذهب لشراء صواريخ روسية رغم معارضة الناتو، أن يكون لديك صحفي مسجون وتفاوض ألمانيا عليه، أن يكون لديك مواطن أمريكي مسجون وأن تفاوض عليه. حتى أنت أردت أن تتحدث موضوع خاشقجي مثلا، عملية إعطاء المعلومات بشكل غير رسمي وبالقطارة الذي تحول إلى ابتزاز سياسي. هذا ألم يصبح الآن كاركتر للسياسة الخارجية التركية كورقة قوة، بلوفينج ما نسميه باللغة الإنجليزية؟
Well, of course, I mean, he is using all instruments of power, and he has turned into a more autocratic figure. But just in the last case of the Khashoggi affair, this was basically something that gave him leverage. Or the Syrian refugee issue is something that gives him leverage. When you have 4 million, 3 million Syrian refugees in your border who may potentially go to Europe, he's using that as a bargaining tool with the European Union. He's using the Incirlik Air Base as leverage with the United States. I don't think this is surprising. Why should we be surprised? I mean, this is what Turkey has. Turkey has geostrategic value, and let's not, I know I said there's a mismatch between Turkish power and Turkish ambitions, but let's not also forget that Turkey, despite all its economic problems, is still an economically important country. It has a vibrant private sector. We often say in Turkey that the Turkish economy is blessed by the absence of oil. Because oil can be a curse for your economy too, and Turkey managed to become what it is, the 17th, 16th largest economy in the world, without natural resources, through export-led growth, through increases in the productivity of its manufacturing sector. So there is some power in Turkey, but the ambitions of Turkish foreign policy are bigger than its actual economic and military power.
Okay. Mr. Suad, أيضاً in short سريعاً في دقيقتين قبل أن أذهب هنا. ما رأيك أنت أيضاً الآن في هذا التداخل الذي يحصل؟ يعني الآن لدينا 3.5 مليون سوري في تركيا. هناك أيضاً عشرات الآلاف من العرب من جماعة الإخوان المسلمين من اليمن، من ليبيا، من سوريا، من مصر في تركيا. وبدأت عملية تداخل اجتماعي قوي من خلال إعطاء الجنسية لهؤلاء بشكل كبير، اللغة العربية بانتشار، حتى وسائل الإعلام التركية الناطقة بالعربية في توسع وفي دعم. هذا هل يتحول إلى ورقة قوة جديدة بيد السياسة الخارجية التركية والرئيس أردوغان تجاه الشرق الأوسط مستقبلاً؟ لا نتحدث الآن، ربما بعد 5 سنوات أو 10 سنوات إذا ما تحول هذا العدد الكبير من العرب في تركيا إلى مثلا مواطنين هنا.
It's turned into what?
Asset.
Okay. I think all right, I think I got the question, yeah. Look, I think the decision to welcome the Syrian refugees is and probably will be, in Republican history, an important decision which has serious ramifications both for domestic Turkish politics, Turkish demographics, and also for the social cohesion in the country. Turkey is already a divided country on many different levels, be it on ethnicity, on sectarian basis, on political affiliation, etc. Now, with the infusion of the Syrian refugees in society, we have even a more problematic and complicated situation. There's quite a bit of criticism, especially from the opposition, that some of these Syrian refugees have been given citizenship and actually are allowed and have actually voted in the last elections. But is that an asset for President Erdogan to deal in the future with the region? It certainly is a quality that in itself makes Turkey one of the key players on the table when Syria's political process will be finalized. And I think the Russians understand that very well, and that's one reason why the Russians, despite the downing of the Russian warplane and the tension at the time, I think still have managed to work together, is that the Russians recognize without the Turks a solution in Syria is impossible. But seeing the refugees as an asset card, I'm not sure. I don't think it's an asset. It's actually a problem for Turkey rather than an asset. But in the Syria, if we talk about the Syrian dimension, it is obviously an important factor. Turkey is interested, of course, of the repatriation of these refugees, but it's unlikely that many of them will go back.
مع الوزير سؤال أخير في اختصار، أيضا نفس السؤال. يعني نجد أن هذا العدد الكبير من اللاجئين العرب في تركيا وهذا الانتشار لوسائل الإعلام التركية الناطقة بالعربية والممولة بشكل كبير وجيد هنا، ألا يحدث تغيير اجتماعي حتى في تركيا تجاه دعم طموح الرئيس أردوغان الذي يتحدث عن العهد العثماني من جديد؟ على الأقل يعطيه ورقة دفع قوية من الداخل هذه المرة، لأنه هذا كان غير مطروح في تركيا. لكن الآن مع هذا التجانس، مع هذا التداخل، وأصبحت القضايا العربية بكل تفاصيلها تناقش في الإعلام التركي، ألا يجهز لورقة دعم داخلية لما يريد أن يطرحه مستقبلا عن هذا الاحتواء للعالم العربي من خلال إحياء وإعادة الحديث عن موضوع العهد العثماني؟ ما رأيك؟
First of all, I would like to refer what Dr. Ibtisam said at the very beginning in his opening remarks. The purpose of this meeting was also to see the DNA of the changes, how it works. DNA is constant, so it is the combination with other facts which shapes the future of the region. And when we come to Turkey, to your specific question, it is Turkey's DNA which will interact with others and which will determine the outcome. Turkey has an experience of sending unskilled workers to Germany in 1960s, and these Turks have become now part of German society. Their number is above 3 million. And coincidentally, the Syrian presence in Turkey is also about 3 million. But the Turks who went to Germany contributed to the German industry and German society and benefited from it. Most probably, what the substance of your question is that Turkey may benefit also from the Syrian as cheap labor because the skilled ones are captured by Germany and the other countries. The more they are skilled, they want to leave for industrialized countries. In Turkey, most probably the unskilled one will remain, and Turkey will integrate them as cheap labor and will benefit from it. But it will cause also the problem that Suad referred to. It's a balance. It has inconveniences. It has advantages. So it will depend how Turkey will handle this question in the future. But it may cause problems, definitely. The benefits are already there because it changed a lot of things in the regions where there is, a high number of Syrians. So it depends on how Turkey will handle this question rather than a clear answer like a physical outcome.
Thank you. لدينا الآن نحو 10 دقائق قبل إغلاق هذه الجلسة الساعة 1. سأفتح المجال للأسئلة والأجوبة. أرجو أن تكون أسئلة وأسئلة سريعة، نتجنب التعليق قدر الإمكان إن أمكن. لدينا هنا أستاذ عايض المناع. لا مسح اسمه. طيب أوكي. باتريك أول. باتريك كلاوسون. لا اسف استاذ، في قبلك باتريك كلاوسون بس انمسح فالان رجع. خلينا نبدا مع باتريك وبعدين دكتور عايض.
There's an expression in English about the elephant in the room.
Yes. Yeah.
There's an expression in English about the elephant in the room, namely a massive fact which everyone is trying to ignore. Coming from Washington, it seems that this panel is ignoring the elephant in the room about Turkey's role in this region, namely the Khashoggi affair. That has been on the front pages of every major American newspaper every day for 2 months, in which Erdogan is presented as the defender of Western values and of human rights, and Saudi Arabia is much criticized. I'd be interested in hearing the panel's opinion of what do they think Mr. Erdogan is going to do with the tapes and videos which he says he has about this affair. What does he want from Saudi Arabia? And I'd be interested in hearing from this panel what impact they think that this affair is going to have on a lasting basis on U.S.-Turkish relationships.
Thank you. مين حب؟ طيب. No, we will have another 2 questions and then whoever wants to answer which one question will go like this. دكتور عايض تفضل.
شكرا جزيلا سيد الرئيس. شكرا أيضا حقيقة لأختنا الكبيرة دكتورة ابتسام ولفريق عملها. الحقيقة فيما يتعلق بإغراء القوة التركية أمام الضعف الحقيقة المجاور على وجه الخصوص في العالم العربي، ويمكن أنت خربت علي سؤالي لكن أنا بطرحها بصورة ثانية يوسف، أنه هل بالإمكان أن تتوسع تركيا كدولة عثمانية من جديد؟ أنا أعتقد أن الأيديولوجيست دائما يفكروا هذا التفكير بأنه دائما يتوسعون. سؤالي الآن الحقيقة في حال بدأ هذا النوع من التفكير بالتوسع أو العمل عليه، هل الغرب سيسمح لتركيا بأن تعود مجددا قوة عثمانية وأراضي الدول العربية والجوار تحت هذه السيطرة؟ وهل أصبح الحكم الكردي الذاتي أو المستقل غير وارد في عهد أردوغان.
شكرا. سؤال أيضا أخير ربما خالد طشقندي. أستاذ خالد تفضل باختصار لو سمحت.
باختصار شديد. First of all, I would thank everybody here and to give me this chance to to ask my question. My question will be directed to His Excellency Mr. Yasar Yakish. I would like to ask about the expected consequences of the current policy of President Erdogan and his aspiration toward the Arab world and the restoration of the Ottoman glories and the support of Islamist group as the Muslim Brotherhood. What do you expect the type of confrontation in the future between these policies and the Arab countries and the Arab nation who rejects this kind of policy, which want to do sort of occupying certain Arab countries through this kind of ideologies supporting the Islamist groups, extremists, and the Muslim Brotherhood.
Thank you. Should we start very fast with Omar? I think you would like to answer the first question. What does Mr. Erdogan need or ask from Saudi Arabia about over Khashoggi issue? Very shortly, if you know.
As I mentioned in my opening remarks, this gave Turkey leverage. The Khashoggi affair gave Turkey leverage with Saudi Arabia, but also with the United States. In a way, ironically, it was a blunder that turned into a gift to him at a time when he really needed it. It is no secret that Erdogan has a problem with the fact that the crown prince in Saudi Arabia considers him as part of an evil triangle. In one of his speeches, he mentioned Turkey as a very poisonous force for the region. And I think Erdogan is careful not to blame King Salman, and he, in a way, overplayed his hand in this affair because he was hoping that the humiliation of Mohammed bin Salman in this Khashoggi affair would be such that it would really impact his chances of remaining in power, and that somehow Turkey, if it plays its hand well by this kind of tantalizing drip-by-drip revelations of what happened, there will be such pressure from Washington on Saudi Arabia that the crown prince will have to resign and that the king will have to pick someone else. That was the ultimate goal of Erdogan, and I think he overplayed his hand, and now he's decided to share the tape that he has, which is an audio tape probably, with other powers, and he's still trying to keep the pressure on Saudi Arabia. But in the meantime, he managed to get some extractions from some certain things from the United States. For instance, Turkey's exemption from the Iranian oil sanctions is important. The fact that the United States now declared a bounty on 3 PKK leaders is something that he wanted. The fact that maybe a Turkish bank, Halkbank, that is facing severe penalties for trading with Iran in violation of sanctions, that these penalties may be reduced is something he wanted. And his relations with Mr. Trump, with the White House, have improved, and he has gained some leverage with Saudi Arabia. But again, I don't think this will be enough to really change the power dynamics in Riyadh.
Okay, Mr. Suat, the second question, maybe you would like to answer.
I'll just say a few things on the Khashoggi thing. I think President Erdogan played that extremely well, and he played it at a time right after Pastor Bronson was released to the United States. I think he miraculously emerged out of this as a person who wanted to, turn the truth. The timing of it is excellent. He played it really well. And I think there's also a risk now that these tapes have been given to 4 or 5 other countries that it might be actually leaked somewhere. And I think now if it's leaked, the responsibility would not be resting on Turkey either. So it would be unclear where and how it would be leaked. But I think regardless of that, he understands, and I think the utility of this issue, and I think he played it very smartly. I am a little bit surprised about the emphasis by our 2 questions on neo-Ottomanism and whether a new Ottoman thing. I think I'm surprised a little bit how much of a concern it is here. I mean, the narrative is, I think, much more domestic, politically oriented than actually physically recreating an Ottoman Empire. I'm a little bit surprised by the level of concern, and you hear it from these questions. I would not be as much concerned about it. I think it's something more directed towards creating a new domestic political identity. I think the cultural impact is significant. There is a longing for the past, for glorious days. But I think in many countries, authoritarian leaders do need a re-identification of identity, one that separates you from the past. So I think it's much more healthy to look at this Ottomanism issue from this perspective, rather than whether it actually could be done and the United States or others would allow it to happen.
Yes. Al-Wazir?
Well, I will perhaps be repeating what my colleague said, but the neo-Ottomanism is something which may motivate certain nationalist part of the segment of the Turkish society, but not beyond that. The imperial times has come to an end. British Empire cannot be resuscitated. Ottoman Empire cannot be resuscitated either. It is gone. But it is being used to motivate some segment of the society. Regarding the relations between Turkey and Saudi Arabia, I don't think that Turkey's power is capable of making some changes in the royal hierarchy within Saudi Arabia. It is Saudi mechanism and wisdom and the ta'anni, as we call in Arabic, of the Saudi society, which will determine who is going to be the second person in the hierarchy and who is going to become the first one. It is up to them. Turkey cannot play a role in this change. It may, as Suat has said, it may have tried in the past or so far. It may have played his card, Erdogan may have played his card strong enough, but it is not as strong as making an impact in the Saudi society. Regarding the long-term perspective with the Arab countries, beginning with Saudi Arabia, I think there is an appreciation between the two people, of Turkish people and Saudi people. They understand that the love and appreciation is there. Erdogan's rule is not indefinite, so he will not rule indefinitely in Turkey. And despite the fact that Turkey is not a paradise of democracy, it has a certain degree of experience in multipartite of democracy since 1946. So when and if the election irregularities does not overwhelm, Turkey may change the regime or may put an end to Erdogan's rule by voting against him. For this, perhaps, Turkey's electorate is not interested to that extent with the human rights, fundamental rights and freedom. It is more interested by the money that goes into its pocket. So if the economic situation continues to worsen, then he may be voted out. And many things that we are talking today in this forum will be irrelevant when there is a change in power in Turkey. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. شكرا جزيلا لجميع الحضور ولضيوفنا هنا معالي الوزير يشار يقش، البروفيسور دكتور سعاد كنكلولو، وزميلنا البروفيسور عمر طاش بنار. شكرا جزيلا لكم. تأخذ الآن دكتورة في استراحة غداء. طيب شكرا. خلينا. We will have a photo.
Thank you for your patience. So now your reward will be